Hi! Is it just me, or is this tag done after June? Whatever. I'm ready. Let's go. I've read about 50-something books so far this year, so let's do a mid-year check-in to see which ones resonated the most. Every book I talk about, I have strong opinions for, and I will fully take this opportunity to praise or protest. Number 1, best book you read so far. How do you even answer this when there are so many genres and categories like fiction and nonfiction? And ooh, right, I should give some stats. Per Storygraph, I've read about 70% fiction, 30% nonfiction, which I'm surprised by because that is a lot of fiction for me. With all the food books, the memoirs, art books, essay collections, and history I regularly try to read. But according to the genres so far, I've really bulked up on my classics, way more than I did last year, which is what I wanted for myself this year, so go me. So my gut instinct is to declare that my favorite book I read this year so far is Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier. It was just such a fun reading experience and a page turner. It has everything that a classic fiction should promise. There's a roller coaster of emotions, identifying with the victimized protagonist. There's a clear villain and a tragedy because I enjoy feeling sad. It surprised me with feelings I haven't felt since I was younger, like the insane levels of insecurity and inferiority, but also of the endless possibilities and infinite potential. Last year, I was so ready to write off Sally Rooney and just accept that she's not writing for me, and that's fine. But reading Rebecca really reminded me of what Sally Rooney is doing for people now. At any age, but especially when you're young, you can feel lost and aimless and scared of the future. And you lack confidence because you don't have the experience of what things should feel like and how they should be, and how unfair it is to start from the bottom for such arbitrary reasons like age or socioeconomic standing. So yeah, it even gave me a semi-epiphany. And what can I say? I love a grand house where the house has main character vibes. And Manderley, even though I don't want to live in Manderley necessarily, or that it's the best house I could imagine, it is indeed a grand, majestic, imposing house. And my copy of it is this beautiful hardback. It's a Virago Modern Classics Designer Edition, and it's lovely. It's like 400 pages long, so it's got a nice, satisfying girth to it. Everything about Rebecca has a nice satisfaction. It's Goldilocks. Number 2, best sequel. This month I started reading the manga Kitchen Princess, and I quickly became invested in the story and bought the omnibus editions. This is so cozy and positive and sweet in every sense of the word. The main character, Najika, is a student at this elite cooking school and an aspiring pastry chef who has an ability to cook food from memory, whether it's a meal she ate yesterday or many years ago, whether it's from home cooking or fine dining restaurant. And she also has an insane mukbang level appetite, but she's also this petite, energetic young girl. So first of all, like the fantasy. She's basically the strongest superhero with the powers I'd most want for myself I will ever come across. And she's so supportive of her classmates, even to her rivals. It's so nice, and everyone in it is so nice, and I just want to hold everyone's hand and be their cheerleader. Number 3, new release that I haven't read yet, but I want to. For the past 10 years or so, I've been a fan of the Slate movie critic Dana Stevens, who wrote Cameraman, which is a biography and a cultural history of Buster Keaton. It came out in April and I bought it on release date. I know that Dana Stevens is obsessed with Buster Keaton and spent years writing her debut book, and I couldn't wait for it to be finished. I love film history. I don't know that much about Buster Keaton, but I want to find out from someone who has as much passion as she does for this subject. It is with the deepest guilt that I haven't read this yet, but I will definitely read it soon. Number 4, most anticipated release for the second half of the year. Last year, I chased so much new, when that really isn't me. So I'm making a concentrated effort to focus on backlists this year. However, I have pre-ordered Go To Dinners by Ina Garten, which comes out in October. And this is her pandemic lockdown baby, all about comfort food. So that's just gonna be heavenly. It's gonna be so cozy and so autumnal. And I'm imagining warming my house up with bubbly, cheesy casseroles in the oven. But if I wanted to give a sexier answer, I heard Alex of What Page Are You On recommending Aesthetica by Ali Rowbottom, which comes out in November. And it has influencers and beauty culture and woke culture and Instagram culture. He cites the mood and vibes of the story to Sofia Coppola movies, so I'm highly intrigued. What I'm really hoping for is to hear the definitive voice in fiction that speaks on those topics about our contemporary culture. And at the moment, Melissa Broder is filling that void for me, but I can't help trying to look for an even better fit. Number 5, my biggest disappointment. How is this on so many books I'd give up my soul to read for the first time? Talks. People already have their dream cast lists for the rumored adaptation. I'm seeing this pushed as a good LGBTQ read for Pride Month, and I just find that so egregious. This feels and is a book about gay people written by a straight person. Every detail of the story, from Evelyn Hugo's acting, to Evelyn Hugo's desires, to everyone else's supposed desires for Evelyn Hugo's breasts, feels so disingenuous and laughably unbelievable and cringe corny. This is the most surface level narrative I hope to ever find myself reading for the rest of my life. Number 6, biggest surprise. I'll take this question quite literally and answer The English Patient by Michael Ondiate, because I had expectations after watching the film, and this book is really different, but for the better. Even though I must say that this is one of the best Hollywood adaptations of a book, where Hollywood being Hollywood makes it better. And even though I said that reading this book felt like eating a giant platter of steamed broccoli, it is grown up. I watched the film in January, and it was so romantic and glorious and sweepingly epic and grand and sexy, and I was compelled to read the novel in February for the romance vibes, only to find myself consuming less sexual passion and more deep poetic ruminations of war and mankind and the depths of human experience. Also, there was way less Almashi and Catherine and way more Kip and Hannah in the novel. They're the central couple, and even their relationship is secondary to who they are as individuals in the scope of chaos during wartime. And the ending, I really don't want to spoil, and I'm not going to, but in the movie, Kip is basically Juliette Binoche's boyfriend. But in the book, the way Ondiate writes Kip and his life is so full of emotional maturity, and it's heartrending. And when I finished the book, I couldn't speak. I was so moved and just thought about everyday people living their lives while carrying everything that makes their past. It's too beautiful and heartbreaking and noble. I was surprised by how much dignity Ondiate writes in his characters. Number 7, new favorite author. Many, so many. Madeline Miller, E.M. Forster, Barbara Pym, Angela Carter, Michael Ondiate, but to pick one would have to be Daphne du Maurier. Her writing is so relatable, poignant, searingly insightful, endearing, beautifully poetic. It really yanked me out of nowhere and whooshed me into her dense atmosphere. So much scenery. I want to read all the other writers' works, but hers I must. Number 8, newest fictional crush. So when I saw that Ben of Doom Antidote picked the passionate young George Emerson from A Room with the View by E.M. Forster, I guffawed because my pick is his father, Mr. Emerson, for his no bullshit, no nonsense, but all the love and feelings attitude towards life. While his son George is the brooding, quiet young man in the background, it's Mr. Emerson who's at the forefront, getting the ball rolling, making things happen, living life and enjoying himself, telling whoever's impeding his fun, or even when he sees other people too stiff and with sticks up their asses, to please just shit them out for everyone's sake. And you gotta admire that in a person. Number 9, newest favorite character. There are so many again, like, of course, Cersei, and of course, my BFF, Patroclus. But I want to talk about dear Mildred Lathbury of Excellent Women by Barbara Pym. Because justice for middle-aged single women. What I loved so much about Mildred and this book is that everyone else, all the evocatively named characters that I'm obsessed with, think that they can influence her and her decisions about her own life because basically they think that they're better than her and have it more together because they're either like married women or they're a man. Because what power could a 30-something-year-old spinster possibly have? What opinions could she possibly stick to? They all treat her as if she's some malleable child who is adept at making tea for them. In other words, all these wiser, better people try to take advantage of Mildred, only for Mildred to stick to her guns and be like, no, I don't want that for myself. None of you offering me advice can call yourselves better off because you are all obviously miserable. So I shall remain how I am, thank you very much. And learn how to make your own damn cup of tea and clean up after yourself, uncivilized pig. Feminism. Number 10, book that made you cry. Shockingly, I think I only cried once this year, and that was for Cersei by Madeline Miller. After men in her life continually let her down, and Girlfriend's immortal, so it's just era after era of men putting her through the ringer. And the biggest heartbreak of all is that though this story is about a mythical goddess, it's really about life and the meaning of existence, and the most basic of life's lessons, that you won't ever know what's sweet without knowing what's bitter. You'll never feel happiness and peace without also putting in work. And you can't ever own anyone, not your lover, not your child. And you gotta let go and let them be who they are. That one's the hardest. Nothing is sadder and bleaker than plain old life itself. Number 11, book that made you happy. This month I read Korean American by Eric Kim. It has everything. Beautiful pictures, clever layout with clever formatting, poignant writing, his beautiful relationship with his mother, incendiary ideas like kimchiing everything if you don't know what else to do with an ingredient before it goes bad, and then cooking that, lengthening the life of your food, giving your food a journey. It just made me feel so happy that everything is correct. And I feel so happy for him that he did this. Make the definitive Korean American book. It's so affirming. Like something I didn't know that I wanted or needed until I saw it. You can just tell that he comes from a happy, supportive family. Number 12, the most beautiful book I read this year. I picked a Penguin Modern Deluxe Classics for my answer to this last year too, but it cannot be denied. The cover art for Cold Comfort Farm by Stella Gibbons has this amazing Roz Chast illustration. It's glorious, it's charming, it's perfect. Number 13, what books do I still need to read by the end of the year? I feel certain shame that for the same question in my tag video last year, I said I Love Dick by Chris Kraus and The Idiot by Elif Batuman, and I still haven't read either. I also still haven't read My Year Abroad by Chang-Rae Lee, so those will be prioritized. And seeing my Storygraph stats, I really haven't read many thick books at all. 63% is under 300 pages. And I like having a balanced book meal. So now I know to incorporate more thick books in each month going forward. I'm probably going to tackle like the longer classics like David Copperfield, War and Peace. It feels so cathartic doing this mid-year check-in and looking at stats and graphs and charts. I feel like an athlete, a reading athlete. I hope your reading year is going well and you're getting out of it what you want and feeling all the feels. Thank you so much for watching as always. I'll see you next time. Bye.